So we're back with John McDonnell, who is running for state assembly right here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Thanks, John, for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So John, tell us a little bit about who you are and about your candidacy.
Okay, I'm born and raised in San Francisco, lived here my whole life, went to school here, been married 40 years and raised 4 children here in the Bay Area. I want to thank Roger for putting this together for all the people who are interested in the future of California. And I hate to say it, but I've got a pretty unhappy message, and that's that California is in terrible shape. People think we're a rich state, but we really aren't. There's poverty everywhere. We represent, California has about 12% of the state's population. We have over 30% of the welfare cases in the country. We have 47% of the homeless people in the country. And just recently, during the pandemic, we had the highest rate of unemployment claims in the country. There's a lot of problems, and these statistics don't even count the many desperate and impoverished people who come to this country illegally trying to build a future. So all of this poverty is overwhelming our public services, the schools and our health services, mental health services. And I can tell you, since I've lived here my whole life, that California's been on this downward path for at least 20 years now, maybe longer. It's got the highest taxes in the country. It's got the high poverty rates we're talking about. It's got a terrible business environment. And for many years, many years, it's been ranked as the worst, absolute worst state to do business in the country. And that's why so many companies are leaving. Between 2008 and 2015, over 1,600 companies left California, completely left. Big name companies like Toyota, Nissan, Nestle, Occidental Petroleum. And people say, well, you know, we've got the growing tech industry here in California. We're doing great. Well, for example, it's not so great. Tesla has their headquarters here, and it has operations in California, but when it came time to expand, it built its gigabit factory for batteries in Nevada. And it's just recently acquired a lot of land in Texas for further expansion. Apple Computer, sure, they've got their beautiful headquarters in Cupertino, but when it came time to build a huge server farm to support their iCloud services, they went to South Dakota. And what about Silicon Valley? Well, it's called Silicon Valley because that's where we make all the computer chips. And computer chips are made from silicon. All the big companies, Intel, National Semiconductor, Advanced Micro Devices, Cypress, a dozen others. Well, here's the real story. Intel, the biggest chip maker in the world, doesn't make any computer chips in California anymore. They closed their last fabrication facility in Santa Clara in 2010. And at that time, they were spending over $1 billion building 4 new facilities, 2 in Texas, 1 in Arizona, 1 in Oregon. We can't even compete with Oregon. So this has been terrible. So the problem with this is driving out these companies is driving out so many middle income jobs, good middle income, semi-skilled, technical and other type of jobs that people need for upward mobility. So we're building in basically inequality. We've got people at the very bottom flipping burgers, cleaning hotel rooms, and people at the very top. But the whole middle core where the low income people can move up and have a better life, build a better life for their children. All of that is leaving California. And so we have to do something about that. And our education system is making things worse. Our education system, with all the money we spend on it, is 38th in the country. We can't even get up to average. If it wasn't for a handful of impoverished southern states like Mississippi, Louisiana, and Arkansas, we'd be almost last. So we've got public schools that are not doing a very good job, and even worse, in our low-income, impoverished communities, the schools are just garbage. And kids are dropping out of them. Some of those schools have dropout rates over 50%. They're dropout factories. And where are these people going to go? What are they going to do? Oh, the tech guys say, hey, learn to code. Some of these people can't even read a newspaper. They're not going to learn to code. So we're expanding the number of unskilled workers and the number of impoverished people. And California is now pushing to have the highest rate of income inequality in the entire country. And the politicians in Sacramento, they just shrug. They cruise along happily on their boondoggles. Another big problem that they won't deal with is crime. We have propositions on the ballot that need to roll back some of the crime problems that have been created in this state. We've virtually decriminalized any thefts up to $950. This has led to an explosion of car break-ins, explosion of shoplifting that really damages low-income small retailers. My uncle ran a mom and pop grocery store, and they work on very thin margins, sometimes only 1%, a dollar profit on every dollar that they manage to take in. Well, somebody walks into a store like that and rips off 6 or 7 bottles of high-priced liquor, and that wipes out a couple of days' profits. So people can't survive that way. And San Francisco now has the highest rate of property crime in the country. And violent crime is increasing too. The Chronicle reported that this summer in 2020, San Francisco has had a 30% increase in shootings and a 32% increase in homicides. A 32% increase, that means if 100 people were killed in 2019, it's going to be 130 in 2020. So we also have 2 deaths a day in San Francisco from drug overdoses. And basically we're doing nothing to really stop it. California keeps raising taxes and the problems keep getting bigger. So the question I have, and I asked plenty of people in San Francisco, which is a heavily Democrat city, why do Democrats keep voting for these guys? What are they doing? And the only answer I ever hear is that Democrats promise to get rid of global warming. Well, the bad news is nothing we do in California is going to stop carbon emissions going up. Gavin Newsom could ban all the automobiles, gas-powered automobiles in California tomorrow, and the carbon emissions are going to keep going up because China and India generate multiple times anything that we can save in California. Tons of times, 10 times, 30 times, 50 times. You can look it up. So there's nothing we can do. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows that everything we're doing in California that cripples our businesses and hurts our economy, none of that is making any difference. In fact, in 2018, the entire country, the entire United States reduced our carbon emissions to the level of 1994. And worldwide, they keep going up because China, India, and other developing companies need the cheap energy that they get from oil and coal. So, and by the way, electric cars won't fix this problem because you need electricity. And to generate the levels of electricity we're using, even now, we need coal-fired power plants all day long. So the real answer is if we want to deal with global warming, we have to use different technologies, clean, safe nuclear technology, hydroelectric, clean, safe from dams. We haven't built a dam in California in over 20 years. And the technology for nuclear power is light years beyond what it was in the 1970s when places like Chernobyl were built. So there are good answers out there. but our politicians won't go for them for a number of reasons. So we need to get away from this one-party rule that is in California. They've got tunnel vision. They only see certain things and they don't look to broader solutions. So they make costly mistakes like a middle speed, not a high speed, a middle speed train that goes nowhere and it's been a waste of billions of dollars. Folks, you need to vote new people like me to go to Sacramento. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, John. You know, I got a couple of questions here asking maybe a little more specifically what you might do if you're in the assembly or what the state can do. And let's kind of break that down a little bit. I guess the first one, you alluded to the fact that the state's in pretty tough economic condition right now. A lot of people are leaving the state. We've been talking about that all day. What should the government be doing, the state government, if anything, to deal with this inhospitable business climate that we have here now?
Well, we saw in 2018 that a two-step process fosters a business favorable environment. You cut taxes and you reduce the regulations. We've shifted from the Obama administration, which was pretty hostile to the business world, to the Trump administration, which some people think has been overly friendly to the business world. But those two steps really do make life much easier for businesses. And they've talked about policies, incentives. Hollywood tries to pay people to keep making films in Hollywood. So there are things we can do, but the main things we need to do is veer away from the trajectory that we're on now.
I noticed that on your Facebook page, you do have some commentary about the shutdown and the sheltering. Is it time to open business back up, do you think?
Oh, I can tell you, in May, I was writing letters to the Chronicle saying, time to reopen all the bars and the restaurants in San Francisco, but we found out very early on that the virus doesn't seriously harm people under 40. It's only people over 75 that are getting very sick and dying. So I said, look, you can literally reopen every bar and restaurant in San Francisco. They got to show an ID that shows they're over 21 and under 40. Those people might get sick for a few days, but they don't go in the hospital and none of them die. You can look at the statistics in San Francisco or even the nationwide statistics. And further on that, the number of children, school age, K through 8 children that have died in the entire country from COVID, I think it's about 30 or 35. Like 5 times more children that age have died from pneumonia than have died from COVID. So opening the schools is not dangerous for the children. I understand the teachers are more nervous. I'd be nervous at my age if I were teaching a class, but that's a choice. They can choose not to teach, and other teachers, younger teachers, can come in.
Okay, we had a lot of commentary today. I don't know if we need to add to it about AB 5, but I want to kind of take a bigger issue here. There's been proposals to raise our income tax rate to 16.8%, to impose a 1% wealth tax. There's a ballot measure, 2 ballot measures increasing property taxes potentially. Do you feel like that's the right direction that the state should be going in?
Well, from my presentation, I think you can gather that it's the wrong direction. It's increasing all of the problems that are burdening the successful people, successful businesses, successful individuals. I mean, if you're talking about a 16% California tax, which is no longer deductible against your federal taxes, now you're looking at, if you're at the 40% rate or roughly the 40% federal rate, you're paying 56%, more than half of your income just for the privilege of staying in California. When you can go to Nevada, you can go to Texas, you can go to Florida and not pay that 16%, and a lot of people do. I mean, I know people who made a lot of money in Silicon Valley who decided it was time to move out of the state. So you don't get 16% or 13% or 2% from those folks. They're long gone.
Okay, well, that's it with our time. I want to thank you, John, for joining us and being with us today. Do you have a website, or is it all your Facebook page?
I do have a website. It's McDonnell for Assembly 2020.
McDonnell for Assembly 2020. Okay, thank you, John McDonnell.